everyone, it's Ellen March with Sulky of America, and this is So What, our Facebook Live series. And today we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving table decor. So I happen to be working on a really great project. It's an In the Hoop project, and it is a great, even last minute Thanksgiving decor idea. So if you're hosting the big day and you want to have something special at the table, this is even something that your guests can take home with them and reuse in different ways. So it's kind of a gift and decor all in one. So today what I'm making is called the Hibernating Hedgehog Cutlery Holder. That's a bit of a mouthful, but it is a in the hoop design that is digitized by Sweet Pea Embroidery. Now, Sweet Pea is an Australian-based company, and we are really great friends with them. They've done a webinar for us in the past, and they're actually doing an upcoming webinar on December 3rd. So be sure to register for that webinar because we've got lots of great information from them about in the hoop projects and freestanding lace and all kinds of holiday type designs for you to share. But before I get ahead of myself, I do want to mention that you'll want to say hello, drop me a line in the comments. Be sure to ask me any questions you have today regarding this project or others that I have featured or anything about Sulky products, and I can answer them in real time while we're doing the live video. Also today, if you are commenting and liking, loving, sharing this post, you will be eligible to win a really great gift today. And that gift happens to be the Sweet Pea Fall Embroidery palette. Now, a palette of thread is really just an assortment of thread that goes along with some designs. And Sweet Pea makes so many designs, and they actually don't really give you a color chart for them. They like you to, choose what colors speak to you. Choose the fabrics that you have in your stash and get thread that complements them. Well, they've gotten a lot of requests for people who actually want color charts. So we started creating some palettes with Sweet Pea, and they've curated all the colors for the rayon thread in the palettes. They come with 6 spools, and those 6 spools coordinate with tons of their designs. So right now we have a fall palette and we have a winter palette or holiday palette. So I'm working with the fall palette. You can see my palette is empty right now. This is what the packaging looks like. It's empty because all the threads are on my sewing table because my design is in progress. And I was hoping to show you guys a bunch of different steps of this design. And let me know in the comments if you want me to. It just gets so loud. The embroidery machine is so loud that I have to like scream over it for you to hear me. But I'm more than happy to show you a couple of the steps, and I'll show you how far I've gotten on the design itself as well. So the first thing you may be wondering is, what is an in the hoop design? And I do want to mention this Hibernating Hedgehog design is only available when you get this thread palette. So when you purchase the palette, which is a really great deal, at sulky.com, you get the design files for the hedgehog. And it's an in the hoop cutlery holder, like I said, for those of you just joining us. So an in the hoop design is actually a project, and it is something that you can create entirely in the hoop of your embroidery machine. Now, I say entirely, but some of the steps you might have to hand sew, like hand sew a little opening closed, or baste a zipper. But actually, even when there are zippers involved, those are usually done in the hoop as well. And the great thing is you really just go through the steps of the design like you normally would with machine embroidery, except now you're probably placing different fabrics at different times. So you have a lining or an outer piece or applique. And the great thing about this design is if you've never done an in the hoop project, not only are you creating the little silverware pouch itself, but you're also learning about in the hoop applique. So all the applique on the front is a cute little hedgehog design. I'm going to show you a picture of a printout of the color chart so you can see what the design looks like. It's this cute little hedgehog, and it's got some pine cones and some fall leaves around it, and he's just sitting up saying hello. So all these fabrics that you see, the patterned hedgehog body and the little grass below along the lower edge of the silverware pocket is all in fabric. So you can dive into your fabric stash and find some little pieces that fit these parts of this design and just have fun with it. Now, I am changing it up a little, like I like to do. And I found a scrap of fleece that I happen to have that I am using for the hedgehog body. So first off, you'll gather the fabrics that you need, and along with the design files, you'll also get, of course, the full instructions for the project. You do need to cut your pieces to size. It just helps if you do it before you start the design. You know, just get your ducks in a row and have all of your fabrics pre-cut. And I do want to say that luckily I had some really great fall palette fabrics left over from when I completed my gemstone block for this month. And we'll put a link up so you can see all about the citrine gemstone block. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I have to show you all my handiwork because these gemstone blocks by MJ Kinman are a real, I don't really want to say challenge because they are getting easier the more that I do them, but I just feel so accomplished when I have finished one. The directions are very straightforward, but it is a lot of piecing. So take a look. This is my citrine block, and it looks like a giant gemstone. Isn't that cool? So if you're unfamiliar with MJ Kinman and her work, she also did a webinar for us, which you can get at any time on demand, and you can get an overview of her blocks and her inspiration and the awesome gems that she creates out of fabric, needle, and thread. They're just amazing. But my point of showing you this, yes, first off, is to just simply have a show and tell you I finished this and I'm so excited about it, and you can finish it too. I do one a month. I will be doing one a month on the Sulky blog and giving you sort of tips and techniques of my process so that you can feel like you can tackle this too. And also we have all the kits to create these on the Sulky site as well. So we'll put a link up for that. But all that to say, I have these great coordinating fall-ish fabrics left over that were kind of the perfect sizes for my cutlery holder. So I got my background fabric, my lining fabric, and some of the little hedgehog parts from my leftover citrine fabrics. Now, the other thing you're going to need, other than fabric and the thread palette that I talked about earlier, is some stabilizer. Now, we don't do machine embroidery without stabilizer, and Ultra Solvy is your best friend when you're doing an in the hoop project. I used to do or use tearaway stabilizer, sometimes depending on the fabric, or even Fabra-Solvy. But what I like about the Ultra Solvy is it is completely water soluble, much like the Fabra-Solvy is. And it is much, much thicker than the traditional Solvy. So it is going to support the weight of all those layers of fabric and batting and applique and thread that you're using for this in the hoop project. And then when you're done, it's going to wash away completely. So I use Ultra Solvy in the hoop. I hoop the Solvy alone, and then I start adding my fabrics and batting and all that good stuff as the design directs. Now, since I am substituting a little rectangle of fleece for the hedgehog body so that it is nice and fuzzy, I am also using traditional or regular or standard Sulky Solvy. Now, the reason for that is when you are embroidering on something really plush, you don't want the thread to sort of sink into the fabric fibers because then you can't see it. So in order for it to kind of pop off of the surface of that fleece, put some Solvy as a topper over your plush fabric, and then you can sew. And again, this is water soluble as well. So when I am all done, I can simply just rinse away all of my stabilizer. There will be no trace of it. I don't have to pick out any tiny little bits of tear away in the stitches. I don't have to worry about anything kind of shifting if I tear too hard. I can just rinse it away, done with it. So that's why I'm choosing to use all Solvies for this project. Another thing I like to use when I'm doing in the hoop applique is the KK2000. Now, if you guys are not converts to KK2000 quite yet, please get yourself a bottle. This is good for so many sewing applications, and it dissipates in the air after about, I want to say about 48 hours or so. Sometimes it'll last a little bit longer, but it completely just is air soluble. I use it for basting just about everything, from small little quilt blocks to an entire quilt I've basted. For the In the Hoop applique, when I'm adding my fabrics in the embroidery machine, I spray just the center with the KK and then put it in place onto the design where the pattern directs. There will be a placement stitch that you stitch out before you place your fabric, and then you'll know where to spray your KK. Now, you can spray the whole piece and put it on there because you can simply lift it off and reposition it and cut away what you need to cut away for your applique after you've done the tacking stitch. But just to kind of keep things neat and tidy, I like to kind of try to get my KK in, the little area where it needs to be so that I don't have to mess with peeling it away. Okay, so I'm going to show you where I am so far on the design and explain a little bit more about what I just talked about. Let's wake up the machine. Now, this design does have quite a bit of steps, and that's really because you are doing the applique, you are lining your little hedgehog with fabric. So I've actually got a piece attached along the back that later on is going to be flipped over to the front, and then the whole thing's going to be sewn with another piece of backing and another piece of lining. So right now it is just flying in the breeze, and when it's on my machine, of course, this fabric is going off on the opposite edge of the machine bed, so it's not getting caught. If you do worry about it getting caught, you can roll it up over the edge and see where my Ultra Solvy is hanging over. You can just clip that with a couple of quilt clips or even just pin it to the Ultra Solvy while you're doing the embroidery of the hedgehog, and it'll just stay out of your way. But I'm not having a problem with it shifting or getting caught, so I'm just kind of leaving it. So in the hoop, it's looking like this with my lining piece kind of extended, and you can see I'm almost halfway there with the front design. Now I've got part of my hedgehog done, and I have the little leaves and pine cones going. There's also going to be some additional mushrooms and additional leaves and things like that around the hedgehog as I continue to complete it. But I'll get it a little bit closer so you can see how cute it is and how I have that additional layer of Solvy right on top of just that fleece layer. So I placed my little piece of fleece with my KK, stitched down the outer part and the ears and all that good stuff, with the solvy on top. Okay, when I went to cut around this piece for the applique, I also just cut around the solvy. So when it is done, again, I don't have to mess with picking all that out because it's water soluble. I can just take a little Q-tip even and submerge it and start dabbing it along the solvy until it dissolves. So that's going to make my hedgehog nice and kind of plush and fuzzy. But my beautiful rayon thread is still going to be seen because it's popping off of the fabric surface with that solvy. So I think it's coming along quite nicely. There are 42 thread changes with this design, and I am on number 23. So I highly suggest you print out your color chart and kind of tick off the or check off, I should say, the colors that you have done just to keep everything straight. I know your machine's going to be communicating with you as well, telling you what thread you're on and what number you're on, but I really love using my color chart as a guide as well. And that also helps me kind of line up my next threads that I'm moving to so that I can just keep going and not have a big delay. Or, you know, especially if you're making these for everyone at your Thanksgiving table, right? You might have 8 or 12 people joining you for Turkey Day, and you know, it would be really nice to have one for each person. So with 42 thread changes, that can take a little time. So just, you know, to keep yourself kind of organized, that's something I recommend. Now, let me get this back on the machine and I'll tell you a little bit more about the products that I like to use for in the hoop designs. Now, the other thing about having a lining piece and additional fabric pieces, like making a bag or making a pocket or something like this that has a lot of layers, a lot of the times the digitizer will direct you to use some sort of tape. Okay, they may have their own sort of removable tape that they like to use. I know Sweet Pea has really cute tape that has their logo on it, and they use it for everything, and it comes off with no residue. You know, I've tried Scotch tape, invisible tape before too, and it's just doesn't have like a great hold on multiple layers of fabric. And it just gets a little, I don't know, I don't like stitching through a lot of layers of that. So what I have found is I cut little strips of Sulky Fabrisolvy, sticky Fabrisolvy. So now I've got a water-soluble fabric-like sticky tape, essentially, that I am using to secure the batting and the backing and the lining while I do this project. Now, the great thing about it is it's water soluble too. So now I've got the ultra solvy that's water soluble, I've got the regular solvy that's water soluble, and I've got the Fabrisolvy as my tape. Everything is going to wash away when I am done. I'm not going to have to go in and peel off pieces of tape during each step or each layer. So it's just a huge time saver, and plus it's just the greatest products. The Fabrisolvy just sticks right to the Ultra Solvy, as well as the fabric, and you know, you're just using a tiny little strip of it. So I highly suggest you try that when you're doing in the hoop designs. The other thing is, you know, if you forget to peel away a piece of tape when you're doing an in the hoop design, and all of a sudden you turn it right side out and whoops, there's a piece of tape that maybe you forgot to peel away. With Fabrisolvy tape, or, you know, strips, I should say, you don't have to worry about that because, like I said, just going to wash it away. So if you happen to leave it there, you actually should leave it there until you're ready to rinse it off. So yay, love that stuff. Let's see. some other things I wanted to tell you about this design. Remember to like and share and comment on the post today so that you can be eligible to win the Sweet Pea Fall Palette, which comes with the Hibernating Hedgehog design. It's actually the only way you can get it, and if you order it today, you can definitely expedite your shipping and get it before Thanksgiving and have plenty of time to make these for your table. So, you know, what is better than getting a pack of thread, and these are all the threads you need in the design. You don't have to go hunting through all of your thread spools to figure out the colors that you need that match the little hedgehogs. So I love a thread palette. Now, speaking of that, this is the Holiday Sweet Pea palette, and this one coordinates with our webinar project. Now, like I said earlier, we have a webinar with Sweet Pea on December 3rd. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you can't tune in live, you can always get it on demand. So be sure to register for it, because that way you'll learn about all the specials. And let me tell you, if you have never come to a Sulky webinar, you're really missing out, because the day of the webinar, we have amazing sales, like amazing deals. And you're going to get this thread palette at an amazing deal. There's a kit for the webinar that comes with the thread palette. You're going to want to make these designs for your holidays for sure. Okay, so be sure to join us on the webinar day. We'll put a link in for you to join and register for the webinar. It's really just as simple as clicking the link and putting in your name and then tuning in on the day of. And you'll get a reminder email that says, hey, we're about to do this thing, so remember. And I'm sure I will be reminding you about it a couple more times before our live date as well. But if you do want to get started and learn a little bit more about the webinar, we have a blog post on that coming up this week as well. So you'll learn about who's teaching the webinar and the techniques that you're going to learn and all that fun stuff. All right, so Thanksgiving decor ideas. Now, another really cute thing I like to do for Thanksgiving, and I love doing it while my children are small because it creates a keepsake that I will have forever. What I like to do is put out a tablecloth and some fabric markers. And instead of having the kids kind of doodle onto paper with crayons, I have them create little stencils and, you know, outline their hands and draw their names on the tablecloth with fabric markers. Then I set it and it's permanent. And each year you can kind of see how the kids' hands are growing. And, you know, ultimately you could make this into a quilt and free motion stitch over the handprints and things like that and have like the greatest keepsake. But I really like the kids' faces when they see what they did last year, and my girls still don't remember year over year that this is even a tradition. So I have not unearthed it from my basement quite yet, but that is another thing I like to do for Thanksgiving is, you know, get out this kind of weathered brownish tablecloth that has been doodled on for the past 8 years and kind of continue that tradition. So let me know what your traditions are as far as what you're sewing for Christmas for Thanksgiving. I'm getting ahead of myself. And some little crafts too. I love to have a little craft for the kids to do at Thanksgiving time to really just keep them busy while the food is being prepared and afterwards. A lot of the times I'll get a little craft kit that I can just put in front of them and let them open it up and let them read the directions and just guide their way through it. And then of course, after the meal or the next day, I love to do the gingerbread houses. So there's a lot of traditions coming up, and I'm sure you guys have yours too. Maybe you can make this hibernating hedgehog part of your traditions and make some cutlery holders. After the meal, you know, after you've used it to hold everyone's silverware for the meal, they can then take it home as a little pouch. And if you've done this for maybe the kids' table, that's where they can take home the craft that they've made in their little pocket pouch with their little hedgehog on it. And you can further embellish this with everyone's name on it as well. Just add their name in your machine screen, in the editing screen, and you can have them even more personalized. So I hope you guys have fun with that design, and I really want to see the ones that you come up with, because just like any project, you know, you can pick your own fabric and really have fun with changing it up, like using fleece for the hedgehog body like I did. So let me know how you liked everything today, and again, be sure to like, comment, share on today's post, and you could possibly win the Sweet Pea Fall Thread Palette. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next week on So What?